Morning, everyone. We are going to have our coffee chat with Jeff Reynolds at Urban Condo Spaces. Just waiting for him to join us here. Hope everyone's having a wonderful July 1st. It's the first day of the second half of 2020. So looking forward to kind of what's in store. Hi there. Thanks for joining. Just waiting for Jeff to join in here, and we'll go ahead and add him to the screen. If you have any questions or whatnot, feel free to write in the comments or in the Q&A spot so we can address those, of course. And then if there's any future topics, obviously reaching out and letting us know so we could be speaking about the things you guys want to hear about. All right, we'll give Jeff just a couple minutes here. Morning, guys. So just waiting for Jeff to sign on. Actually, I'll just bump him, send him a little quick. Let's see. Morning, Jenny. Morning, Brendan. Oh, there he is. Morning, Jeff. All right, let me just add you here. Hi.
Hey.
How are you?
Good. What
Good.
up?
You had a busy morning?
Yeah, kind of. Yeah,
Nice.
I haven't worked out yet, but I was like, just getting caught up on work
Stuff.
stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Good.
chatting with Sahar a little bit. I got my headphones in. We're not in a condo like you guys, but
I know. I told Mark, I was like, "Are you gonna leave? You gotta
yeah,
leave."
I mean, the space shrinks pretty fast, especially
Yes.
when everyone's working at the same time.
Totally.
So anyway, how are things
Yeah.
going with you? How's your morning?
Good. Good. We went on we have kind of a crew at our building that we do run club. We call it run club.
Oh yeah, yeah, good.
Yeah, and so they were in town, so we had four of us, all socially distanced, of course, but we went out for a nice little run this morning, which is good.
So I just told you I didn't get my workout in, but you got yours in, huh?
Yes.
Now
Honestly,
I'm a little
I'm missing.
jealous.
I know. I think that we both love to get up in the morning and like work out
Yeah,
and get it behind us because it just helps. I don't know, just resets the day. And it's been really brutal, I will be honest, with not having
yeah.
flywheel, not having berries, not having urban
Mm-hmm.
yoga.
Mm-hmm.
So really looking forward. I actually just heard Urban Yoga Spa just started, I think last week or the week before. They're doing like 5-person classes 2 times a day. And I haven't
Yeah.
yet been able to jump in on that, but I'm so looking forward to a regular schedule.
Well, and interesting timing. Our buddies from Shred. Have you heard of Shred? They just
Uh-oh.
opened. Yeah. So um, Alice and her husband, they brought this brand from Chicago, I believe. She can correct me if I'm wrong, but Ashley, one of our good buddies, Sahar,
It's,
not our good
yeah.
buddies that we used to work out at Baseline,
Yep.
she came over and joined those guys. So I think they just started on a limited basis this
Nice.
week too. They're doing 5 at a time, socially
Awesome.
distant. It's an awesome. So it's right across from Nexus. You would
Oh,
have seen it, right
yeah.
underneath
Yeah.
is it the Connects building, or you would know
Yep.
better than me, the
Connects.
apartment
Yeah.
building? Yeah,
Yep. Yep.
yeah. In
Cool.
fact, Alice, I think she lives in the building. So anyway, it looks like she joined us this morning, which
Awesome.
is
Yeah.
fun. Yeah,
Yeah. That's
yeah.
great. Did
So
Ashley worked at Barry's, didn't she?
she
Or
was
no?
she was at Baseline, and
Oh,
then
basement. Okay.
but our other friend Evis,
Okay.
who's a good buddy, she had been at Barry's. Yeah,
Okay. Okay.
and it's kind of bizarre, I guess, because I don't really know what that looks like for everybody moving forward. I mean, for me to say like she worked at Barry's, that feels weird. I hopefully they'll be opening back up soon,
Oh yeah, worked. I used
and
to.
yeah,
We're still
yeah.
just stuck in this.
I know,
Yeah.
I know. Well, it's hard. I mean, it's like everyone, um, we're all rooting for each other to, especially downtown, to have some semblance of life, right? And be
Yeah.
able to get back to whatever. I'm just muting my computer screen here behind us. I don't want it to get in the way. We want them to get back to what a little bit of what we had before,
Totally. Yeah.
safely, of course, but
Yep. Provides a
yeah.
little structure for all of us. So.
So what did that run look like this morning? Where did do you guys do Lake Union or a version of it
Yeah,
or
so a
cool.
version of it. So we went down Dexter and then we have a couple different bridges that will go down and or pop up and then we'll just come up the trail along the
Good.
water there. So it's
Cool.
good. Morning.
Yeah.
All right.
Awesome.
So how have things been in real estate world for you?
Oh, you know what? I mean, I'd say this week, if I'm being totally honest, this week was a little challenging, like a little sad for me a little bit because the
Mhm.
last 2 weeks I've just noticed I've had some really, really good clients of mine over the years that have really been contemplating what downtown looks like for them,
Yeah.
in the future. And I wrote a post here yesterday um, that was kind of hard to write because I had referenced that I did a company call, a video call with Compass.
Mhm.
They invite somebody every Friday that's kind of an expert in their field, and so I shared what I thought was kind of it's temporary, but like some troubling news, where
Yeah.
you have these wonderful clients that you worked with over the years that buy in the downtown core, and then they're literally contemplating, well, am I going to stay? Like, is it safe to stay? With COVID, does it make sense staying? And I do ultimately in that post, I was very candid. I said that there are people moving out of downtown,
Mhm.
but I think at the end of the day, they will come back. Like a lot of people will look at this as kind of like a bit of a migration, at least temporarily. Urban centers is, I know you believe this, they just have too much importance in
Mhm.
society, right? When you look at
Totally.
Singapore and Hong Kong and Miami and New York, like the best example I keep using is when New York went through 9/11. It was like this scary time where people literally fled, went out to Connecticut, went to Jersey. They just didn't want to be, even went out to Long Island. They didn't know if in city living was for them. And then slowly we feel like we've adapted society, and to safety and better protocol, more
Yep.
vigilance. It's funny when you go to New York. I know you know this. It's like just that the emphasis they put on to see something, say something. It's
Mhm.
weird. It almost like gave people like this feeling in this sense of community that they're doing whatever it takes for everyone to feel safe, and
Yeah.
then that allowed everyone to go back to life a little bit.
Yep. So everyone kind of comes together really as a community to kind of rebuild what's going on around them, basically.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And yeah, I've noticed that too. There's, and I think it's just a changing of lifestyle, right? And even I feel it with myself and our family here.
yeah.
It's like we are gravitating towards wanting to be more an outside. And I think it's also,
Hmm.
it's a time of year where you kind of you want to be outside, you want to be recreating. And then when you're in these condo spaces, you're like, okay, well, is this my highest and best, or is my quality of life, right?
Hmm. Yeah,
And, it is somewhat for the past, 3 months, it's been very kind of daunting to kind of, a little bit of a negative vibe, obviously with
hmm.
the news, everything that's going on. Um, and it's very hard to see a light at the end of the tunnel sometimes. Some weeks are great, and,
Yeah,
and especially moving into the next phase and, all the things that we were proactive in doing. But, I think that there's still a lot of fear out there. So people are just reevaluating where they want to be. Um,
yeah.
depending on what their lifestyle is, I guess. But
So let me ask you this because you're a good example of somebody that obviously gets a ton of joy from being downtown, right? And a lot of
Mhm.
life benefit. And then you get to also, you guys get outside of Seattle, you get to Sun Cave. It's cool. I see you go out there, you guys have a blast. You obviously are getting some fresh air too. I mean, do you think that could
Yeah.
be the temporary pattern for a lot of people during this time too? Maybe just kind of to
Yeah.
kind of wait out the vaccine.
Yeah, I mean, I think for downtown, if you think that you might need, we're just seeing a lot of people reevaluate their space too. So maybe
Hmm.
maybe I need a two-bedroom now. I've been living in a one. I still love living downtown. I can't see myself anywhere else, but I need a little bit more space. So that's what we're
Hmm.
seeing. I'm seeing a lot of that. For other people, it's like, no, I like the space that I'm in. Maybe it's a one bedroom or a smaller two or whatever, but I'm going to look for a place that is just outside of Seattle, maybe an hour, hour and a half away, that I could retreat to on the weekends, or I could
Hmm.
go and even work during the weekday if you're working from home, right? Just to
Yeah.
have that flexibility. Um, I think we aren't seeing, well, we are still even a little bit of the downsizers too, right? So the people who
Hmm.
are living in larger homes downtown, condos, and they're like, well, we want to split our time now. We want to sell our two
Yeah.
bedroom, get a one bedroom in our building because we love our building, but then we want to buy a place in Scottsdale, or we want to buy,
Hmm.
a place somewhere
Hmm.
else so that we can have that flexibility. So I feel like home, and I've been saying this to so many people, is like home is the number one thing on everyone's mind right now, right?
Yeah.
Because we've spent
Yeah.
so much time in our quarters, and there's so many different motivations out there.
Yeah.
Um, I think on the investor side for buying investment property, that's the only place that I've seen kind of shrink, I guess, unless
Hmm.
people are moving money around and they still, they're having to do 1031 exchanges. We've seen a lot of those this
Sure.
year.
Sure.
But other than that, I think that's the only group that has kind of retracted a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I would agree. I think that's been a discussion point. I know that Roy joined us too. It'd be interesting to get his take on what he's hearing of people moving, over to the east side. But yeah, I think to your point, and I've mentioned this to a lot of people that are just asking about the real estate market in general. They're kind of like, well, what are you seeing? And I think fundamentally, because we've been at home evaluating our space,
Yep.
you the deficiencies in your space, having a big enough home office, or wanting, a bigger kitchen, because you're realizing you're spending more time cooking at home or whatever it may be. And then that has been kind of the catalyst for change.
Yep.
And I think we'll continue to see that, right? Because it's
Hmm.
like when we reevaluate what office culture looks like, and these tech companies in town are giving all of our employees a little bit more guidance and incentive, even to
Yep.
work from home to stay safe. We'll have to totally reevaluate what that looks like. Yeah,
Totally.
yeah. I think one thing that's interesting about condos too, you and I know this. It's already a big market for second home, third home, like disposable income
Yep.
type owners, where it's more of a luxury to have a hotel room in the city. You don't necessarily need it, but it's like a convenience. So a lot of our clients, have places in the San Juans or Bainbridge Island, or, from out of town, New York,
Hmm.
China, wherever. I mean, we see that a lot. So I think, I guess what'll be fascinating for us to see is like, how do developers that are still planning on building new, how do they cater the space towards continuing to attract that crowd? And then do we see, more of these spaces kind of contracting or expanding based upon the needs of buyer pool? Bigger
Hmm.
home office, does that mean that you're taking away space from somewhere else? Or is there more demand for the smaller space, where for that person that just wants the in-city suite when they happen to be here,
Hmm.
versus the large, expansive, place for a primary resident? Anyway, interesting stuff.
Well, no, and then that's a great part of it too, right? So then you have everyone has like their own little motivation, right?
Mm-hmm.
For so again, downsizing and having in a place, outside of the city where you come in, you just kind of touch down. I think the other part is like maybe home gyms too.
Yeah,
Your home
totally.
office, your gym,
Totally.
your entertainment rooms, like your basically all those things that you'd go out for now are, I think for new construction, let's say on the single family side, those are all things that I think developers need to kind of look towards. And I know a lot of them are already doing the gyms and the theater rooms and all that stuff, but
Mm-hmm.
they're going to have to be a little bit more robust than I think that they have been in the past. So, and people doing
Yeah.
remodeling, and all that stuff, making
Yeah.
sure that those features are incorporated in their designs and what have you. So,
Yeah. Hmm.
yeah.
Cool.
What have you seen? I didn't pull the numbers this morning, but I've been kind of watching, I guess, pending and
Mm-hmm.
solds downtown. Um,
I
have
just had
you?
it. I just had it up.
Okay.
Let me see. Yeah. So okay. So last 7 days, we're looking at 28 new, 20 pending with 10 closed.
Okay.
So that, okay, so you're probably hearing this as well from colleagues.
Yep.
Everybody at, not everybody, but a lot of the experiences from the people right now over at our group at Compass, they're talking about how the east side,
Yeah.
Seattle, central Seattle's been on fire. We're seeing like anything less than 1.2 is multiple.
Yep.
The stats yesterday, it certainly looked like still new listings down on a relative basis year over year,
Mm-hmm.
pendings way up.
Yep.
And then for now, the last like 30 over the last month to date, or excuse me, the last 30 days, so the month over month, sales were kind of flat, but we expect those to kind of surge, right? Because of all of these pending sales on the residential front.
Yep.
So I'm sure that's kind of consensus right now in the market. Anything single family, anything, within 10, 15 minutes of downtown Seattle or Bellevue has been super active. I've noticed that just in a couple experiences, a listing I had in Bothell and over in Bellevue, but yeah, that seems to be what I'm hearing. What about you?
Yeah, same thing. And actually, there was a couple other agents that had posted about seeing homes that have went over 20 to 35% over asking.
Wow.
Which is just like, record-breaking numbers. Obviously,
Totally.
depending on how their pricing strategy, but still, it's just crazy to get that much. And then the buyers to actually, have the guts to put their escalations up that high, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, totally.
yeah, it's pretty interesting.
Well, and I noticed for an example, I have a friend of ours that works at Nordstrom, and they were kind of planning on finding a place, Leschi, Madison Valley, whatever. There's a place that came on Leschi 3 days ago, 700,000. So super, competitive price point. But as of yesterday, so today's Wednesday, as of Tuesday, my first appointment that worked within my client's window would
Yeah.
have been Friday. So from like 4:30 to 7:30,
Yeah.
it was booked out for like basically 2.5 days in advance, which is just crazy. And so, but that's consistent from what we've heard, right?
Yep.
And
No, I've heard
so,
that too.
yeah. So I guess when we compare it, at least anyone that's here that's kind of maybe more interested in the condo market, it's a bit of a different experience, but the last 3 weeks, pending sales are heading in the right direction,
Yep.
but our supply's grown, pretty
Is.
consistently.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been watching it week over week just in terms of how much inventory is growing, and a fair amount of it is Nexus still. Fair amount is the new construction that they're starting to kind of put on a few more listings. So we kind of take those, Nexus, Spire, Emerald kind of out of the picture. Then, they're modest numbers. It's not like crazy, everyone's just throwing their place on the market. Because I think there is a general sentiment too of waiting this out. So there's no panicking. But yeah, it's been nice to see some activity, and even like the listings that we've had on, let's say there's a few downtown that have really surprised me because, they're great values at where they're at, and they're just not getting traction for some reason. But then there's other ones that just are going super quick. So, and maybe it's a trend of the bedrooms versus the two. And so that would explain the people are more investing in space, in the future versus the one bedrooms. So
yeah,
I feel like that.
No, it's interesting, and to be honest, now that you mentioned it, when I'm looking over at our little market watch, let's see, almost 2/3 of 20 sales. So what is that about? Just about 13 of the 20 sales are two bedrooms or more. Yeah.
That makes sense. Yeah, I just have a hard time with the ones.
Yeah, no, that makes a ton of sense. And so that could then be correlated, of course, to what we were just talking about, right? The home office space or the ability to have space. A dual income family or just a two-person family, in a downtown unit, there's a big difference between 750 square feet and 1,300, or even 1,150. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
All my one bedrooms too were kind of now on the cusp of saying if things don't sell in the next couple of weeks, we'll probably throw them back on the rental market. Because again, the rental market's actually doing pretty well for condos on that
Sure.
side. I do hear that a lot of the apartment buildings in the area are offering concessions, 1 month
Hmm.
free, 6 weeks free on 12-month leases. But I think what happened there is they pretty much shut down their leasing offices during COVID, and so they weren't actively marketing and actively just letting
Hmm.
their inventory build a little bit. Whereas the condo private rental pool, seems to be moving pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Not many rental increases though
Okay.
year over year. We might see just a slight increase depending on the actual property type and where it was the year before.
Hmm.
But yeah, we're not seeing too many on that
Ash,
front.
do you think some of that is uh, related to landlords being a little gun shy, given not one stating the obvious is like not wanting to or having to re-rent, but two, maybe policy, like hearing about rental moratoriums or restrictions on rent reductions. Do you think it's like almost just not wanting to deal with the potential side effect of doing something that's against current city council policy or policy on the rental
Yeah, for
market in
sure. And
general?
that's what we're counseling our clients to do. But when we have a new home that comes on the market, I guess when we think that we can maybe price a little higher, I think in general they're renting about the same because that's where the
Sure.
market is. But I do think that probably has an effect on the overall market.
Yeah.
We've had a lot of tenants reach out to their owners and renegotiate terms less than what
Hmm.
they're rental currently paying too. So it's went kind of the opposite. And some are special situations where they've lost their job and the landlord is just like, I want to help you. You've been a great tenant.
Yeah.
And so they'll work something out. And others are more so the tenants are very privy to what's going on. And so they're not afraid to ask, the owner for a
Yeah.
discount for the next renewal. But regardless, it works out in the end because no one really wants to go through a vacancy right now.
Yeah.
Not that we couldn't get it rented really quickly if we needed to, but I think that a lot of people are just kind of wanting to stay put and have some stabilization during this period.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So let's talk about let's try to like forecast a little bit, like towards year end and let's assume that um, let's just say we're really fortunate and there's I'm a Wall Street guy. I like follow it every morning and it's always been a habit of mine for a long time. There was news today that like another drug maker, Pfizer, is making like really really good progress in their
Yeah.
trials, human trials for the vaccine. So let's just say that we're fortunate and we get a vaccine, towards year end, or even around the election. Do we think that's going to have an immediate impact on the environment downtown, or do we think this is still maybe a moment in time where the downtown market's affected for the next 12 months, so to
Yeah.
speak,
Well,
or a bit longer?
I guess I kind of feel like the vaccine is not going to have an immediate impact just because it
Hmm.
took everyone to be on board with having the vaccine in general.
Hmm.
And we very well know that there's a lot of people that that's not something that they, would even participate in, right? And so then
Yeah.
how do you make that mandatory? I think for the public spaces, public businesses, like, I mean, what does that really prove? Is it a stamp on your
Mm,
driver's license that says that
yeah.
you're COVID approved? I don't even
Right,
know,
right,
right?
right.
But like, I tend to think it's going to be more so the restaurants, the following the new like guidelines or new sanitation procedures or whatever ends up being the end result of this. When we get into phase three, I think, or the end of phase three, we'll kind of have a better feeling.
Hmm.
But I think the downtown core thrives on business, it thrives on community, it thrives on small business owners, restaurants, like unfortunately a little bit more of a social aspect than what is allowed obviously right now or what we can
Hmm.
probably project. A big part of that also is the office space that's downtown too.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like Amazon sitting there and they have, obviously their people are going in the office, I think in certain like waves and they have their guards that are
Hmm.
all, it almost looks like it's fully functioning, but without any people, if you walk on
Yeah.
campus.
Totally.
Um,
Totally.
but that's going to be a big part of it too. And I think, have you heard October, I think was the date.
October
They,
2nd, I
yeah.
think, right now for Amazon, 2nd or the 12th. Well, I actually have an interesting anecdote on the office stuff.
Okay.
So I was meeting with a client of mine who's kind of an office broker, a bit of an expert. And so I wanted to get his take, right? So I think without question, you and I would agree that the amount of bodies in that office space and the ability for office to recover would have a direct correlation, especially like on the small restaurants, cafes, coffee shops, right? So like the
Yep.
evergreens of the world, right?
Yeah.
And that then inherently like trickles down to everybody else, the florists, the way that our condo developers plan out and source the type of retailers that are going to go in their space.
Yep.
I think of like Bounty Kitchen and some of these other
Yep.
places that everyone loves, but they're very dependent on the foot traffic from some of the office crowd too. Not just the people constructing the office space, but like the people that eventually
Lunch hour.
fill the vacancy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think this is really interesting. So the guy I spoke to, he reminded me of something that is pretty universally known. Like when you have a certain amount of office feet, like for instance, 1,000 square feet of office, I think you have roughly 7 people in the previous numbers would fill that space.
Yeah.
So what he was saying is that it actually might not have an enormous difference. And the example that he used, looking into the future, the example that he used is that most of the office towers will
Mhm.
have to minimize the amount of people per that same square footage. Okay.
Got
So
it.
in doing so, let's say we go from 7 people in that 1,000 square feet and we go down to 3 or 4. You still have a lot of the same head count from these major employers. So
Mhm.
really then you're spreading them out, dispersing them on each floor plate a bit wider dispersion than what they had before, if that makes sense. So
Yep.
you're still needing a lot of the current space that you have. It's just redesigned. And so I
Yep.
guess a big part of that market now is how do we create these very kind of like open, not communal anymore, probably won't be the word, but like these kind of flex spaces for these
Mhm.
big tech employees and employers, and then still adapt to the current, kind of COVID environment. And so
Yep.
his take on it was that it will continue to serve an very important role.
Yep.
And although it's going to change, it might not change severely. So
Mhm.
that was an interesting
Yep.
discussion we had. And so then if that was the case and we look out 12 months, maybe there is some kind of state of normalcy,
Mhm.
downtown, or it kind of gravitates back that way. I mean, I think a lot of the bright minds that I've been paying attention to and reading and watching, it's just these urban environments have such an important role,
Yep.
and you just think about like healthcare and the walkability aspect, you like walking your dog and being able to go, like for instance at Enzo, the place I put on, your ability to walk across the street and go and grab your
Whole
groceries. I
Foods.
mean,
Yeah.
that for some people that don't want grocery delivery or want to step out and go catch a meal, I mean, it has to go back to that in some capacity. And New York will be such a good example,
Yep.
to follow, New York and
Yeah.
Boston. And so, yeah,
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And maybe there's also different protocols for, different shifts of it. Because there are still people that really want to get back to the office, right?
yeah,
And even, I mean, some people love working from home, but some people just, they want to be back to that normal structure of going into the office,
hmm,
interacting with people, their team, doing this, that. So it's not something that I don't think these companies are going to be able to 100% go without some sort of kind of communal, and I say communal, but some sort of office space for the people who want
hmm,
to be in there. And then
hmm,
maybe there's shifts and waves of people, people on different floors that come in and, all that sort of thing. There's going to have to just be some sort of standard, I guess, that is set so that everyone knows, employees
hmm,
feel like it's comfortable,
yeah,
work there.
yeah.
But cool. What else has been going on?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, um,
Oh,
what do you?
they broke up Chop this morning. You heard that?
Yeah, so I
Yeah.
heard. Yeah,
Yep.
so did you hear some of the, I mean, I'm sure up on the hill at least, a lot of it looked like bulldozers
Oh yeah.
and like machinery to kind of move yeah. So you've noticed then the little spat between Sawant and
Oh
Durkin this week?
yes, I saw that
Yeah.
yesterday too. Did you read the letter and everything that she put
Yeah.
together?
Whoa.
Yeah.
I
And it was
guess.
you that posted earlier this week, wasn't it? Wasn't it about
Yeah,
that? And
yeah. I just, man, we are in such a tough spot, right? Like sometimes with work in our city because um, my political beliefs and stuff just are, I don't believe are relevant to my real estate work,
yep,
right? But I do
understand.
have like these fundamental, feelings about how a city can run and should run for the safety of its own citizens and its
Yep.
taxpayers and stuff. And so, yeah, the last like 6 months, I've been relatively vocal at times,
Hmm.
just at times, on how I think we can be better. Which I haven't really met anyone that doesn't believe that there's a step that we can make in the right
Yes.
direction, right?
Yep.
So, but yeah, it's gotten to the place where when I get a little defensive because when I see the people that we love and care about and that we work with downtown and their entire life is flipped upside down because the people that we've elected to help run our city can't play in the same sandbox, like that's frustrating to me.
Yeah.
It's
Totally.
like we go to work, we do
Uh-oh.
coming in.
Yeah.
We do the hard work every day. And so to me, it's like we need to expect the same from them. I'm a huge, huge supporter of the Downtown Seattle Association. I know you are too, the DSA.
Totally.
They do such an awesome job. They put ambassadors on the street to help clean up the messes that we're not addressing at the city.
Yep.
They support the police force. They support the protesting. They're doing their best, and they're just not getting a lot of support.
100%.
And so these little spats between our mayor and council,
It needs to stop really because everyone
yeah,
they're leaders of their own communities and their own districts, right? And so there has to be some sort of level of respect, but
yeah.
also I guess a playing field that everyone is working towards the greater good of the city. And maybe there's some give and take there, and there's some sacrifices, but it needs to be done on everyone's account. It can't just be
Yeah,
Sawant's my
no.
way or the highway, basically.
No, I mean, I think the breaking point for me was when she invited all of her friends into city council during
100%.
hours where,
I was shocked.
yeah, that is not
Not
a
okay.
fair and equitable use of public space. That's
Nope.
not what it's intended to do. And so that kind of grandstanding, in my opinion, just isn't, it isn't good for the cost, the greater cost of building a more efficient, safer city. The council and the mayor, they don't always have to agree on everything, but they need
100%.
to clean up their act. And
Yep.
everyone seems to feel that way.
Yep.
And so, yeah, no, that to me, Ash, was kind of welcome news. I have obviously posted about this. Like every bone in my body believes that, you know, we should all be treated fairly.
Yep.
Okay. And the Black Lives Matter movement to me is relevant. It's important. It has to exist in
Yep.
whatever capacity they feel is necessary in order to feel that we're making ground. And I support that. There's a way for us all to look at this through a lens of being thoughtful and productive and how we also look at the rest of the issues in our city. And our elected officials need to be doing
Hmm.
that. Right?
Yep. Yep. I'm on
So,
board with that. So yeah,
hey,
I was happy to see that.
did you happen to catch, so I had that Nexus listing that went live, the last 4 or 5 days ago. Did
Yep.
you see that picture that we caught with the drone with the BLM in the
Yes.
back? That was kind of
Yes.
fun.
I know. I'm surprised you're able to shoot that.
I know, I know, I know.
Yep. No, no, no,
Yeah.
no.
So I hired
Good for you.
an aerialist,
Yeah.
that's licensed and yeah. No, I'm
Yeah, that's
not.
good. No, it's an awesome
Yeah.
shot. I love all your marketing. So you're doing
No,
a great
thank
job.
you. Yeah. Well, what
But
else do you
I
think?
love the little stick that you're keep doing that. I think that that
Oh
just
yeah,
provides such a
cool.
good a fun perspective on everything. So
Thanks, Ash.
yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
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 So what all right, let's before we unless we have any questions to answer for people.
Yeah, if
What are you
anyone.
doing? What are you doing this weekend? Like, what are you guys doing for the fourth? Do you celebrate the fourth? What?
Yeah, so we're gonna go up to Whidbey. We
Cool.
decided to. We actually went there for my birthday a couple weeks ago, and we went to Captain Whidbey's, which is it's an old historic lodge that's right outside of Coopville. That they
Mm-hmm.
have rooms inside the lodge, and they have a couple little cabins. We stayed in the
Awesome.
cabins there, and so we booked the same cabin for early next week. But then we just last minute said, "Hey, let's go on the fourth." We have some friends that live, I think, the Green Bank, right on the water there.
Okay.
So we're
Yeah.
gonna go kind of just get out of the city again and just kind of regroup and then come back.
Totally.
Yeah.
Awesome.
How about
Yeah.
you?
So we have in my family our big event every year is 4th of July.
Really?
So yeah. So this year it's a little bittersweet. Like we all recognize that it's a different year. Um, so as of now, it just won't be the same. It's 2020 is a totally different monster, right? So,
Totally.
but usually all my family flies in from town. I have family in Denver. I have family from Vancouver, BC. They all come into town and we do this huge, like 3 day 4th of July deal. You know, it's like kind of Americana fish and we homemade fish and chips, like
Yeah.
seafood boils, like this big,
Yeah.
kind of, and I was fortunate to grow up down in Gig Harbor, and it's a piece of waterfront that my grandfather bought, and so it's this big family homestead property that we still go back to and
Nice.
celebrate. And so anyway, yeah, so this year it'll be a bit different. In fact, I even had family in Arizona that didn't decided not to come up because of COVID stuff,
Yeah. Yeah.
but yeah, we'll go down uh, and camp and cook. And so I cook
Good.
for like 3 days in a row, which
You
some
like it.
people, yeah, I like to do
You
it.
love it.
Yeah, yeah. So, and Friday night's the big one. That's like,
Okay.
if you're a seafood lover, it's like clams, mussels, king crab, Dungeness crab, like just a huge kind of fun
So
deal.
where do you get all your seafood then? Where do you
I
get it
like
this
to
year?
I like to sport everybody up here.
Yeah.
So uh, for a long time, I went down into the market,
Yeah.
but recently I've been going to. I'm trying to remember. It's sad that I can't think of it right now, but in Ballard, actually, like right around like 82nd or 83rd, there's
Oh yeah.
a place up there that I went to 2 years ago. And then last year I actually went to Ballard Fisherman's Terminal. I heard
Yep.
from a friend of mine, there was a big fisherman. He's like, dude, support those guys. They get all of our stuff. I mean, by supporting them, you're supporting me kind of. So I
Yeah.
went there last year and it was pretty cool. It was like, um, they basically have everything that you need and they'll
Isn't
clean
it
the,
like on this? It's on the side of the street, right? That side street, right? And then they just have little stands set
yeah,
up.
so it's
Yeah.
yeah, it's kind of yeah, or yeah, exactly. And it's also, but they have kind of you've probably been there because it's like just west of the bridge, and
Yeah.
it's kind of down by the restaurant down there too. And so they have like this big area of display too, where that's where um, I got most of the stuff last year, and Ashley had everything. I mean, and by the way, it was my sister's request to do king crab. King
Yeah.
crab is a very expensive item, and so for me to cook for like, I must be like the great brother, the good cousin, the friendly guy from Seattle. I'm bringing down a lot of stuff, but I'm
Yeah.
happy to do it. I'm happy to
Yeah.
do it, and it's awesome, and it's
Yeah.
super fun. Yeah.
If you ever want to, we always do because we love Maine, and
Uh-huh.
so we always actually fly in lobster, but we do the lobster meat. There's a
Oh,
company called Cape Porpoise Lobster
okay.
that we just order from, and they do 1 day, and they'll just give you like 2 pounds or 4 pounds of like tail and
Awesome.
everything, right? And so we just actually did that last week for Mark's birthday, and I'm thinking I'm gonna order some for this weekend too, and we'll probably get some crab and just do kind of the same thing there. So
Yum,
it'll be good.
yum. Up at Whidbey. Yeah, that'll be great. Yeah. So the big guy had a birthday, huh? How old? Can I ask how old he is? Will you tell me?
30,
Or
38.
38?
The big guy
He's
had a
probably
birthday.
he's probably disappointed I didn't send him something. I better work on that.
Yeah, my best friend Jeff missed my
Yeah.
birthday. I know. He woke up that next morning, and that's the first thing he said.
I'll have to reach out to him and wish him happy birthday.
Yeah, get it.
Fun, fun.
Cool.
Well,
Good.
what a good check-in. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, we kind of covered the gamut, I think, and I think we want this to be productive for anybody that wants like more intel, right? So anyone that wants a deeper dive in stats or a deeper dive on, where we think the market's headed, we can do that. And if anyone wants to hear, I don't know, I thought it might be fun, one of these chats that we have, we can give everyone a kind of a look at what a typical day looks like for us, one of our busy days, so we can kind of share what we're doing from start to finish and how crazy this real estate world is. But we're totally open to hear from others and how we can help, right?
Right, totally. And so you can reach out to us, and it's pretty easy to find our contact information. But
Yeah.
if any of you guys want to submit comments or just DM us or what have you, just let us know what topics, hit close to home so we can have some content ready for you.
Great. And then Ash, remind everybody how, you've been pretty active about taking this, and I think it's going on your YouTube page, or how would you, okay, so how do people see it if they miss like the first half of our little discussion and they want to hear about some of the condo stuff we spoke about?
Yeah, so basically we will take this video and go ahead and put it on YouTube, the UrbanAsh YouTube channel.
Cool.
And we'll probably actually link to it on our UrbanAsh team, at UrbanAsh team at Instagram as well, and maybe even have it on IGTV. So we'll just
and if anybody wants me to republish too, I'm sure I could put that on
on yours,
the channel or whatever.
I'll have Brittany reach out and get that
cool.
to you.
Yeah, cool. And then okay, fun. Well,
good.
It's good to see you.
You too.
And we'll, hopefully have a really good holiday. And then when do you want to pick back up? Couple weeks?
Yeah, a couple weeks. We'll just kind of stay in communication about it, and either we do a Wednesdays or Fridays seem to work well in the morning.
Good. Yeah. And hopefully everyone has a safe holiday weekend and we get some good weather. I mean, right now it looks like it's going to be good enough, not necessarily hot, but no rain, I hope. So
hopefully, fingers crossed.
All right.
All right.
Okay.
Cool. Thank you, Jeff. Thanks everyone for joining. Hope you guys have a great holiday.
See you soon.
Bye.
See you, Ash. Thanks.
Bye, you too.